Parshas Tetzaveh. Truth is, there's so much to speak in this week's parsha. From the beginning of the parsha, we have the Tetzaveh expanding on what Rashi says, Kosis Lamoy v'loi Kosis Lamanoches, that his father, the Heilige Chasam Sofer, said, Kosis Lamoy, the remez to the Torah, a person has to put himself through anything in order to succeed in Torah, but not Kosis Lamanoches, not to do that in order to get to Parnasa, to a higher level in Parnasa. Continuing through the parasha, we see time and time again the Big Day Kahuna, the V'asuli Mikdash, how every person has to reach and strive to reach those levels of Kedusha, how the Shulchan represents Kedusha that needs to be by each and every one of us, how each and every one of us today needs to realize and internalize that our Shulchan is B'mkoi Mizbeach. As we know, Chazal tell us when there was a Beis HaMikdash, Karbonis were Mechaper, and today Shulchan Shan Adam is Mechaper. We also see in this week's Parsha, the Me'il is Mechaper Lashon Hara, an incredible thing, where Yerucham already asked, what's Pshat? The Me'il is Mechaper Lashon Hara, and he said even more, we see Chazal tell us that the Karbonis for a Metzora whose Nana Shal Lashon Hara is to bring Tziporim, birds. And the reason is because just like he was mefatpet, he was speaking with his mouth, so too birds do the same, and therefore they are the good representatives to be his carbon. And Reb Yankele asked, of course he doesn't understand, what does this mean? What's the connection? Because birds chirp and therefore they represent Lashon Hara. And he said that of course Lashon Hara we knew and we know is bad. But what we don't always understand is that it just starts with just talking too much. Of course, also continuing in the end of the parsha, we have the incredible, maybe we can call it the conclusion and the goal of the Mishkan, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that I will make this my home, the Ma'oin of Kedusha, the palace, and how each and every one of us has to be that home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We see incredible levels of Mesiras Nefesh that one must have in order to be a Mishkan, to be a place, row of Ashras Ashchina. But I think that what we can connect through this entire parasha and through all the parashas that we learned till now is that there is an underlying theme that once we understand this, everything else could potentially fall into place. Avram Avinu, we all know, his midah was chesed. But the Vilna Gaon said that we don't know Avram Avinu for his chesed. We know him for the nisayon, the climactic nisayon at the conclusion of his Asara Nisyonis that went complete in the opposite direction of chesed. The Akedas Yitzchak was the exact opposite of chesed. The underlying theme of that, of course, being Avram Avinu's chesed did not come from a nature of chesed. Avram Avinu's Akedah did not come from Chas v'shalom, a nature opposing chesed. But rather, everything is with an underlying theme of Avdus Hashem. Yaakov Avinu nikra ish tom. But when it comes to Lavan Arami, Ochiv ani beramos, he can be just as sly as Lavan. The idea the officer taught us, and what we see in this week's parasha, And what we have to bring into every topic and every conversation, from Lashon Hara to Chesed, is to understand that a person has to be able to reach a level of Avdus Hashem, to reach a level of Bittul, where we remove ourselves from the equation, where we stop thinking, what is my nature, what is my inclination, what do I feel, what do I think, and leave it up to what does Hashem want me to do. And I think that is the underlying theme, especially of these Parshas, that we're talking about the building of the Mishkan and its Kalim, and the details and the Ramazim, the incredible Ramazim that Chazal tell us are hidden within all these halachas, things that are relevant on a daily basis, as we mentioned, Lashon Hara and Chesed, and so forth. And all these halachas have one underlying theme. Do I speak out because I feel like it? Or do I speak when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to speak? And of course, the hard part is that sometimes we feel and we think that we're doing it for the right reasons. Reb Yankele tells us there was a story with a couple in Eretz Yisrael in Tel Aviv. They arrived from the Soviet Union, and of course people wanted to be a makar of them, and one family in particular would invite them for sudas, and they would invite them and they would send food to them and they would support them and they were there for them, until finally one Shabbos, after they left from the Suda, the Eishes Chayil saw that they waved a taxi and they went into the taxi and left. And of course they were very maddened by this. How could they do this to us after all the support we gave them? It must be they were planning on this. They probably brought money with them. This whole time they were sitting by our Shabbos Suda. They were Mechal Shabbos. And now they go into a taxi. That's it. We're done with them. And when they called again, they didn't answer. Or they showed them the cold shoulder and showed them exactly where the door was. 2 months later, they get a phone call from the organization asking if they could come be Menachem Avul the Almana. Of course, they obliged. And when they came into the Shiva, they asked the Almana, what did your husband die from? And she said, he died from a heart attack. So they asked her, was he suffering with heart problems? We never heard about this. So she said, actually, no. The first time he realized anything was wrong was when we were by you for the Suda on the steps down. He had some pains in his chest. So we flagged down a taxi. At that time, you were able to make it to the hospital on time. But this time, 2 days ago, we were too late and he passed away. What a powerful message, and something that unfortunately we see so many times, where we feel the fire is burning. I'm doing this for Kavod Shabbos. I'm showing a fellow Yid the cold soldier for the cold shoulder for Kavod Shabbos, for Kiddush Shem Shamayim. But in reality, are we doing it with a pure bittul of our own emotions, of our own biases, of our own negias? Are we really being mevatel everything for Ratzon Hashem? Are we really removing our own judgment from the equation when we judge a fellow Jew? And this is the essential point of the Mishkan, where Klal Yisrael had to come together, b'nediva slave. And the more nediva slave there was, Chazal tell us, Betzalel's chachma was that the more nediva slave there was in a nedava, the more heart there was, the more bittul of one's own will, of one's own yearning for kavod, or for some other selfish reasons, the higher and the holier the nedava was. And of course, this is something that we have to continue to work on, as the Rabbeinu Yoina says in Avos. Mitzvahs is one thing, but the main thing is the achana, where we're mevatel everything, where we remove ourselves from the equation, We don't do mitzvahs because we feel like it, or because we want to, or because we think it's right, but rather because it's Ratzon Hashem. When we all be zoiche to feel Kedushas Shabbos and to be mekayim the mitzvahs of Shabbos because it's Ratzon Hashem. Thank you and have a wonderful Shabbos.